Economic philosophers. In our video, we were talking about four major economic philosophers: Adam Smith, David Ricardo, Karl Marx, and John Maynard Keynes. This video is made by Chad Larson, Anthony D'Armando, Jack Fallows, and Luke Ciberdelli.
Adam Smith, the father of modern economics. Adam Smith may have been the most influential economist and economic theorist of all time. His theories have influenced the way modern economic markets function since their inception. For this reason, he is considered the father of economics. Smith communicated these ideas through his most well-known work, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations. Smith discusses things like laissez-faire economics, which is the theory that economies are best left to govern themselves. He also discusses the division of labor for efficiency and specialization in product production. He also suggested the idea of gross domestic product, also known as GDP, to measure the wealth of nations accurately.
The next economist we'll be looking at is David Ricardo. Mr. Ricardo was born April 18, 1772 and passed away September 11, 1823. He lived his whole life in English and had a great career as an economist. Ricardo's greatest accomplishments were the creation of the theory of comparative advantage, the theory of labor value, the theory of rents, and his iron law of wages. Ricardo was also one of the first economists to discover the law of diminishing marginal returns. The theory of comparative advantage states any given economic actor has the ability to produce goods and services at a lower opportunity cost than other economic actors. Therefore, any country will benefit from international trade as long as their resources are correctly distributed. Ricardo's labor theory of value, or LTV for short, implies that economic value of a good or service is determined by socially necessary labor rather than by the use of its owner. Socially necessary labor is the amount of time put in by a worker of average skill with average tools. Therefore, they only have an average productivity potential.
Karl Marx, the father of modern communism. Karl Marx was a philosopher, author, and economist known as the father of modern communism. Marx applied his theory of history to his observations of society at the time. He concluded that history of society was a history of class failure. Marx's approach to economics were untraditional. Most economists examine the economy as parts of a big picture, while Marx started at society's level of the economy and examined their influence on its parts. Marx eventually developed the concept of communism. In a communist society, people no longer belong to classes and the state is non-existent. People would no longer work for financial gains or material incentives, like a capitalist society. In the history, communism has a bad rep. The Soviet Union collapsing and of China developing into a capitalist state give it that rep.
The final economist we'll be looking at in our video is John Maynard Keynes. John Maynard Keynes was a British economist who fundamentally changed the way macroeconomics was looked at with his ideas. He is known as the father of macroeconomics. John Maynard Keynes introduced Keynesian economics, which is an economic theory of total spending in the economy and its effect on output and inflation. This economic theory was used to understand the Great Depression. His principle challenged the neoclassical economics, and he brought up the importance of state intervention to help with economic activity of a country and also to control the boom and bust phases that a country goes through. His book, The General Theory of Unemployment, Interest, and Money, changed economics, and he argued that the only way to maintain full employment is with the help of the government. Also, he believed that unemployment is only caused if people do not spend enough money. During the Great Depression, Keynes wrote the book, The Means of Prosperity. This book contained policies to help attack unemployment and global recession. The book had advice for all governments around the world on how to help fix global recession. During World War II, Keynes played an influential role in the negotiations that helped shape the post-war international economic order. Before his death, Keynes helped Britain obtain new and outstanding debts to help rebuild the British economy.
60-second adventures in economics. Number 1, the invisible hand. An economy is a tricky thing to control, and governments are always trying to figure out how to do it. Back in 1776, economist Adam Smith shocked everyone by saying that what governments should actually do is just leave people alone to buy and sell freely among themselves. He suggested that if they just leave self-interested traders to compete with one another, markets are guided to positive outcomes as if by an invisible hand. If someone charges less than you, customers will buy from them instead, so you have to lower the price or offer something better. Whenever enough people demand something, they will be supplied by the market, like spoilt children, only in this case everyone's happy. Later free marketeers, like Austrian economist Friedrich Hayek, argued that this hands-off approach actually works better than any kind of central plan. But the problem is economies can take a long time to reach their equilibrium and may even stall along the way. And in the meantime, people can get a little frustrated, which is why governments usually end up taking things into their own more visible hands instead.